Well, welcome and good evening from this is Crew Singapore Media Ministry. I'm David Balch. I'm your host for this evening. Welcome, and I truly thank you for taking this time this evening to join us for our webinar, Building Community Resilience Through Literacy. I think we're all here this evening because we all believe that literacy is a means by which communities can be empowered by beginning with the young to help them to communicate, to understand, to empathize, and to be more attentive to the people, issues, and events that they engage with every day. It's about allowing communities to be more resilient to the distracting nature of contemporary media messaging, and through nurturing a child's imaginative capacity, helping their places to flourish and grow. It's also about opening a child's eye to the wonder of the world around him or her by empowering children from under-resourced communities and families to read well. By doing so, we are enabling them to participate more equitably and more effectively to meet the information challenges of this world. So once again, I thank you and welcome you to our webinar this evening. We will be joined a little later by our speakers. Angeline Lim from Reading Roots will be speaking first. We'll be speaking our second speaker for tonight. She'll be joined by Carmen Wong, who is a volunteer, so we get the chance to hear the voice of a volunteer. But our first speaker for this evening will be Samantha Kwan from Readable. But before we get into our speakers, let me share a couple of quotes with you, just to give you kind of a framework or give you contextualize what we are discussing tonight. And as I say, we are here this evening because we are concerned, and we also have a belief that literacy indeed is a means by which the foundations of a community can be built. So this first quote comes from the UK. So the question of reading and literacy skills is something which is all over the world. It's a problem, and it's becoming more of a problem, it seems, these days as we are being challenged by the current mobile technology. Reading rates, sadly, all around the world are dropping, and places like the UK are very concerned that indeed this particular trend would cause in the long run serious issues in the community. And this research, the Reading Agency, a British organization, organized a research into the efficacy of reading. And this particular quote comes from Sue Wilkinson, who's the chief executive. Let me just read this for us. This report confirms what we have seen among people of all ages. Across the UK, reading is such a powerful force for good that it can change people's lives. Reading enables us to expand our horizons and grow our ambitions. It builds creativity and imagination, knowledge and skills, empathy and understanding. It connects people and strengthens communities. It improves our prospects, shapes our life chances, and helps us manage our health and well-being. Reading enables us to be the best we can be. Whoever we are, whatever stage of life we're at, whatever challenges we face. In a world where inequality is widening, where family and community networks are fragmenting and poor health and well-being is reaching epidemic proportions, we need the power of reading more than ever as a tool for change. So just wanted to set us our thinking in terms of what we are dealing with when it comes to encouraging literacy amongst our young, beginning with our young generation, because in time to come, they will be the ones who will be leading this particular country, and we need to ensure that they start off with a wonderful, solid and firm foundation. Our second quote is a little closer to home. This one is from the National Library Board. They also had recently did a report on the importance and the impact of school libraries. So for the love of reading, a compilation of best practices in Singapore schools. They have this to say: besides being a source of knowledge and learning, reading provides a gateway to help the child become aware, articulate, and to imagine. A good reader becomes an independent learner and thinker, capable of critical thinking and making sound decisions. Inculcated early, the reading habit will create a lifelong advantage for the child. So this particular quote is probably a little more close to home to the issues that we might be more concerned about. Generally speaking, when we think of literacy, we think of someone's learning capacity. But as the first quote suggested, there are far more higher level elements at stake. And we need to take that into account. For a literate, well-read society, and while not our direct concern tonight, we need to have this context in the back of our minds as we discuss the importance of literacy and reading development for our children. So on that note, let us introduce our first speaker for this evening. Now, the context of both these groups is that they found as they looked at the various elements of in different communities, they found that in some areas, some communities, some families, they were under-resourced. They were not able to get access to the wonderful, rich variety of literary or literacy programs that are out there. So they chose voluntarily to develop programs to look into the needs of the under-resourced families in Singapore. Our first speaker this evening, Samantha Kwan, she is from a group organization called Readable. And this is an organization that's been going since about 2015. And it was an inspiration of a group of young lawyers who had access to or were aware of the situation in an area of Singapore called in Jalan Kuku. They saw in that area that the children lacked the resources and needed the additional support in their literacy development. And then they started Readable. So without any further ado, I'll allow Samantha to give us a little bit more background on Readable and their programs. Thank you very much, Samantha.
Hi everyone. My name is Samantha. So by day I do marketing. But by Saturdays and non-working hours, I work on Readable. So let me share my screen to share a few more about what we do and who we are. Um, so basically, we Readable was started by three lawyers in 2014, and I joined them in 2015. And the vision of the vision of the organization is every child literate for life, and we believe in fighting poverty through reading. And we yeah, it literally started in a one-room flat with four children and three teachers. Basically, the very first student is a daughter of a single Indonesian mother. And Jonathan Mark, who's one of the co-founders, his church was doing a food distribution effort in the neighborhood, and he chanced upon many young children, and he saw the potential of the young population there, and so he befriended this lady, and they literally asked her, can we teach your child English? So she opened up her home, and they made friends. And because the neighborhood is very close knit, the neighbors grew to hear of this, and soon one kid in one flat became five kids in one flat, and then three flats, and it just multiplied. Um, so this is an outdated stat, but today, fast forward 7 years, we are approximately 95 children and about 120 volunteers across four different classes on a Saturday, and we also have weekday help for the kids. So most of the households in Jalan Kuko earn less than $1,500 a month, and it's one of Singapore's lowest income neighborhoods. And there are a significant number of one-room flats and rental flats. Some of them are used as transitional shelters by a few nonprofits. So that's just the background of the area. Funnily enough, is right across the road from Robertson Quay. So literally, they're two worlds apart, by a road. And yeah, that's Jalan Coco. So this is a typical rental home environment. I'm going to minimize this picture. So it's literally, yeah, I think this is a pretty good indicator of what a rental home looks like. As you can tell, there are multiple children, and the moms here are actually working on a home business project I am that I've started, which is a sister project of Readable, called Project Coco, but it's another topic. But anyway, in the rental home environment, they are mostly, most of them are non-English speaking caregivers, or that's what we see in Jalan Kukoh. English is not their first language. So naturally, they don't play English channels on TV. And when they do, um, it's like random YouTube videos, music videos, not much educational resources. The caregivers don't they haven't had much education because they themselves might have dropped out at an early age of school. They're often under high financial stress. Some of them, usually mom is not Singaporean but married to a Singaporean. Mom could be on LTVP, or what we call long term visit pass. That pass, it is very hard for them to find a stable job, a stable 9 to 5 job, because it's anything from 3 months to 5 months, and they have to renew, frequently. And so oftentimes they're on high financial stress, and they have like three different odd jobs just to meet needs at home. Adults also rarely converse with children, few to no books. So you can assume that there are very little educational resources at home, or even people to watch the learning of the kids. And it's not that they don't want to. Most of them, they just can't, because they just have too many things to do, too many kids to take care of. And yeah, this is very structural. So some of Readable's principles, we believe in early intervention, personalized engagement, stable home environments, and partnering the families, and strong partnerships with community organizations. So I'll first touch on early intervention. Um, so we have a preschool class. We teach kids as early as the age of 3, and I'll share a little bit more with you later on. Personalized engagement. We don't believe in a one size fits all policy. We have the luxury of this not being school, so we a lot. We have a 1-to-1 teacher student ratio. By and large, at least for our primary school and preschool kids. We believe in partnering the families. So we have a relationship with the parents, and we update them constantly of what their kid is doing, how they're doing. And we try to visit them regularly to check in on them, make sure our kids have good table and chairs to sit on and study. There's like Wi-Fi connection for home-based learning, and they have laptops that they're in working condition. And so we partner them as friends, and walk alongside them, to ensure that they have the right learning environment at home. Strong partnership with community organization. We partner with Catch Plus, which is an after school care in the Jalan Kukoh residence center, which is under the Kereta IA GRC. Yeah, so our philosophy, we believe every child is loved, and we believe that children thrive in love. So this girl, Natasha, basically she was one of our very first kids, and you can see in the very first year that she started, her handwriting is all over the place, like her letters are all worded weirdly, but in a year, she achieved amazing work. And it's not that she has a learning difficulty, it's that she has a learning gap, which is where most of our kids are at. It's because of because their families are under resourced most of the time. They just don't have the resources to start as young as they could have or should have, and hence this learning gap builds, and hence the issue of inequality worsens if there's no intervention. um, so we also recognize that our children weather challenges such as parental incarceration or family violence, and so we strive to support them, by showing them love. Some of them have absent parents, and I think that's where we come in as role models, and we journey closely with them. every family partnered. So yeah, like I said, we have WhatsApp groups, for each family, and we check in regularly with them to ensure that they are supportive of their kids' learning, and we get their buy-in, for their kids' education. I mean, ultimately, Readable is a volunteer organization, so it's not compulsory. So if they enjoy it, which they do, that is what we feel most happy about when they come repeatedly. um, and hence we think this is really important. Every volunteer empowered. So Readable is entirely volunteer led and run. We don't have a full-time staff. We do equip our people every quarter with different courses by professionals. Sometimes we talk about like phonics, so classroom management, to positive psychology, to body safety for children. We invite educators and professionals to run these. I mean, I myself, I don't have kids. I do marketing as a day job. So most of what I know is really from our training and learning as I volunteer. Everyone a community. So we are secular, and we seek to be inclusive, both for our volunteers and our kids. And we want to encourage our kids to have diverse aspirations, and to to engage everyone with empathy. So I think most of our kids, they don't. It's not that some of them just are not exposed to having dreams of their own, right? Or they might think um some stuff is not possible just because they have never seen it. And I think that's where we come in, and we try to teach them how to dream, and to encourage them in this respect, more than just gaining literacy skills, right? I think character development is really important, and we believe that that is as important as having literary goals. We will also have behavior goals for our kids, especially those who are younger. We also like Readable is very relationships heavy. The work that has gone into sowing the seeds in the neighborhood started as early as 2014, and the relationships that have built over time. And so we require a 6-month commitment for our volunteers, just because a relationship takes time to build. Yeah. So we're split into 4 classes. For preschoolers, they are as early as 2.5, and it's a mix of play and child directed approach. So here is a class where Bernice is dressed as a durian, and it was a class about fruits. So we empower our preschoolers through play. And yeah, just I think there are some basic rules that we have for kids, and you can use play to simulate real life experiences and speak to them, and to introduce new vocabulary. um yeah, I'm just going to go over this really quickly. And for our preschoolers, we focus on building emotional literacy and character development. So like, what does it mean to be kind? What does it mean to show empathy? And because they are so young, we have books about feelings and emotions, like what does it mean to feel sad, what does feeling sad look like. And I think these are really important when we talk about building resilience through literacy. I think one way to build resilience is also if you are able to name your feeling, right, to name your emotion. And I think this work starts as early as a preschool age. For the primary schoolers, we call them the Readable Rangers. So they use a curriculum called the Fitzroy. It's basically a tiered reading series from Australia, and that really helps with scaffolding. And it's a phonetic-based approach when it comes to reading fluency and English comprehension. So the whole structure is one-to-one, and we find volunteers to work with a kid each week. And after reading after doing the worksheets and the Fitzroy curriculum, the kids are, they can pick a book from the community library. This is of course pre-COVID, when we could meet in more than groups of 5. So So we have a community library where we curated all these donated books, and according to reading level, and so the kids can pick out a book. And in Readable, we believe in building the love for reading and the love for the English language. And so we yeah we do believe that if we allow the kids to pick a reading material that they enjoy, they will be more inclined to like reading. Yeah. And then we come to the Readable Champion. So these are our upper primary to lower secondary kids. And this is like age 10 to 15-year-olds. And so we focus on literacy, but also social emotional competency and character development. So helping them to take leadership over their own life, and helping them. And why do we call them Readable Champion? Because we want them to champion their own stories, and to champion the stories of others. And so this is a field trip that we took to MediaCorp, where we showed this is like behind the scenes where they film shows, but also it gave them exposure into what film, what acting is like, what production is like, what news, what the news anchors do. And so we had a friend, we're lucky enough to have a friend who works at MediaCorp and got us this gig, to bring our kids there. So we often partner corporates to take them to different corporates who write in, who want to contribute. We let them take our kids for day trips, and these experiences would help them in what we mentioned earlier, but also allow them to have more imagination when it comes to their own writing. So this is an example of the kids went to this place called, I think it's called like Garden, like Ground Up Initiative or something like that. But basically it's all about agriculture, and it's a farm, I think it's somewhere in Lim Chu Kang, where you're able to plant rice, and you're able to learn about organic farming, and saving the earth, and why we should care about the environment. And so it gives our kids exposure to all of these things. This is a class where they did baking. For some of them it was baking for the first time. They've not had a chance to do that at home before, and so one of our volunteers led this class. And then of course we will try to pair all these activities with some writing components. So they had to write about their favorite food, and describe the food, and tell us a story related to that food. um, so these are just some other pictures about to give you an idea of what Readable Champions do. The syllabus is quite impressive, really. It's this was a lesson about India and Syria and Pakistan, and I think we were trying to talk about the conflict, uh, the COVID outbreak, in the migrant dorm situations, but also try to build empathy for the migrant workers, and like where do they come from, what do they do, like who they are, but and so in doing that we have to give them a lot of background of like Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, and the whole history behind um, their lands. This was a class where I think it was a debate, and yeah, it was a simple debate topic, but it was on teaching them what is a good argument and how to create a good argument and frame your story. And this was a session for them to create a photo diary of what they did during lockdown. And so the kids had to take a photo of what they did, and then like tell a story of what they did, basically like a journal. And this you can't really see it here, but basically it's a bingo of like relationships. So it was a module on relationships, and it was about toxic masculinity and feminism and what it is, and breaking down narratives that they may have heard of, like what men should be and should do, or like what women should be and should do. And I think like this is how through lessons like these, this is how we try to teach our kids, or to get them to think about these things more critically. And I think all these built for both all these built for emotional resilience, and I think that's really important. So this is a project by our kids, by our Readable Champions, and you can check this out on Instagram. It's called Humans of Coco, and basically what it is a collection of stories written by them, And because these are teenagers, right, we told them like your writing would be published if it's written well. You know, you can't have it up with broken English. You need to refine your sentences. And so the teachers work with the kids to produce to refine the content. But really everything comes from the kids. And so they this was a module where we invited a photographer friend and a journalist friend, and they went around the neighborhood interviewing characters in the neighborhood. So this uncle, you know, he's one of the older shopkeepers in Jalan Coco, and the kids wrote a really nice paragraph about him. And here's another story about, you know, like being friends with our neighbors, and Pretty, one of our kids, you know, talked about it. And so I think this project is like, yes, it's through their eyes, is Jalan Kuko through the eyes, but also it's for them to yeah, have work that they are proud of, that they are able to share. And again, we want them to champion um their own stories and the stories of others. Another class that we have are Readable Moms. So we teach a lot of these migrant women English. So oftentimes these women, they could be, you know, single women, or you know, they married to Singaporean men, but they are not Singaporean themselves. They come from different parts of Southeast Asia or China, and they often you know, speak English as a second language. So we teach them English. So that they can teach their own children, but also like functional English so that they can navigate life in Singapore, and feel more at home here. And some of them also, you know, could potentially get jobs. And I think this is huge because, you know, one of our mothers, one of our success stories, actually this lady who was previously working in a hawker center as, you know, selling Tiger beer. She, you know, and with different odd jobs to meet her income, her income needs. She was faithfully, you know, our student for about 2 years, and then today she's a receptionist, and with a 9 to 5 job at a spa. And I think, you know, it's great, you know, seeing her progress, and also dream to have dreams for her kid and for herself. Yeah. So this is Countable. It's our numeracy arm that we started for preschoolers and lower primary kids 2 years, about a year and a half ago. And basically it's learning mathematical concepts through play. And basically, yeah, we have educators who created the syllabus and who helped to train. And yeah, we follow the concrete pictorial and abstract model of learning in the Countable classes. So just some organizations we've collaborated with, you know, private, government, theater companies that have generously donated tickets for our kids to watch plays, to also, you know, expand their horizons, and just give them an experience, you know, again, help them to enjoy the language in a different form, in a different art form. And yeah, um, last but not least, this is Readable, which is our outreach and training. So we support other nonprofit organizations and social justice initiatives, and we work with, you know, in particular, literacy-focused organizations in Singapore. So after this, Carmen and Angie from Reading Roots will be speaking. So when they first started, they approached us, and I think we worked, you know, we gave some advice to them, how, and then they started in McPherson. And we do the same for other organizations or other people who might be interested to start something in their neighborhood. And our dream at Readable is to see more and more, you know, ground up literacy organizations planted all over Singapore. And that's how we can, you know, make change together. Yeah. So that's it on Readable. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Samantha. That was very comprehensive, I must say. The programs you have developed over the years, very immersive, hands-on. They give students or the children so many different experiences. And above all else, I think the most important thing there is the development of their relationships. is key, I believe, to what you're doing down there to build up that communication with the families and to encourage them. It's really wonderful. Now, for those of us who have any questions for Samantha, or indeed for our next speaker, Angeline, later, at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A option. If you do wish to ask any questions to any of our speakers, please drop a note inside the Q&A and we will take care of the questions after the second and third speaker this evening. Okay, so any questions, please drop them into the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. Okay, so we'll now move over to our second speaker for this evening. It's Angeline Lim from Reading Roots. As Samantha mentioned, they got their kickstart through support of Readable, but their particular area is in a different part of Singapore, picking up on the same concerns which Readable had in terms of particular communities, young people, young families having difficulties in terms of resourcing their literacy development. They are actually providing programs in the McPherson area. And Angeline indeed is the founder of this particular organization. And I'd like to pass over the time to her to give us a bit more information and background on Reading Roots. Thank you, Angeline.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Samantha. Just let me share my slides. Right, do I sound okay, David?
Yes, coming loud and clear, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Thank you, Crew Singapore, for giving me this opportunity. And also, I want to say a big shout out to Readable, because we wouldn't be able to do Reading Roots if not for them. And my first time meeting Samantha, Amanda, as well as Jonathan was in this very loud food court. We were trying to understand what Readable do. But I think even through the midst of noise, I think our hearts are kind of knitted and our vision is common. And so a friendship formed from there, and I'm just really grateful for them. Just a quick rundown of my sharing. I just share a little bit of how it began, our vision mission. What are the success factors that we see are critical? The gap in McPherson, and some pictures of our kids. Also comment, our volunteer, one of my, like my right hand person in one of our groups. She will be sharing her story as well. And finally, how can you help or contribute? Yeah. So this is my family. I have two young kids. Kayla, my firstborn, she is now 9, and Ethan is 6. So he's going to P1 next year. And so how this all began was the story when my daughter, Kayla, started her P1. And she went to a neighborhood school, and I accompanied her on the first day of school orientation. And it was very exciting, right? Like my first child going to school. And so as the usual orientation program, as a parent, you have to sit through kind of like a 3-4 hour talk with the principal and the teachers. And they kind of give you a whole rundown of the school system, all right? So I was sitting in the hall hearing from the principal, and I was like, wow, I mean, she's very comprehensive, and this is a lot of information to soak in. And I was flipping the booklet that was given to me, and this was something that I picked up. I was like, oh, wow, by term 2, a kid needs to be able to speak clearly, appropriate pace, volume and tone, and be able to pronounce ending sounds and read aloud a text with accuracy. So I was reading all through this kind of milestones that a P1 kid is supposed to have. And I kind of felt overwhelmed. I kind of felt like, oh gosh, if as a parent who has been through the education system, I feel overwhelmed. I think a kind of a light bulb just dawned on me. It's like, how about parents who have not been through our system? How about parents who do not speak proper English? How would they help the kids through? How would the kids be able to flourish in school? And so it kind of made me think and ponder over this issue, and I started to talk to people about it. And I started reading up and trying to research, and you know, this is what I found. And then we have a huge private tuition industry. Kids from resource families are able to spend, you know, even up to $100 per lesson on tuition just to get through PSLE. And then I saw this article, right, where a child from a disadvantaged home gets 8 out of 100 for exam, you know. And I was like, gosh, there is such a big gap here in our community. There's such a big divide. And I guess this kind of, I think this burden in me starts to grow. And so, you know, the thought process is this: and if a family who is under-resourced, unable to provide adequate support for their child, like giving, you know, resource for tuition, what happens, right? Enters P1 and the child is already behind. There's a gap because others would be able to speak fluently because they have started from 3 years old. And child is unable to follow up with the pace, and it is a very fast-paced system that we have. And then the child performs poorly in school, and then the child is perhaps could not get the qualifications needed for a job, for a good job, and then the cycle goes on, right? And the generations are affected. And so this kind of hits me in the head. It's like, oh gosh, how can I do something about this? And coincidentally, during that time in 2018, when we started, I was part of a church, and my pastor was preaching a sermon on the story of Nehemiah. And so for some of you who do not know this story, but basically this story is about how God used Nehemiah to send him back to Israel to rebuild the walls, because the city is in ruins, and the people are distressed because the enemies are coming in and they have no city walls to build. And so this is what Nehemiah said to his king, and he was serving a Persian king at that time. And he says, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in his sight, let him send me to the city in Judah where my ancestors are buried, so that I can rebuild it. And so he went to the king, and the king granted his wish, right? And so my prayer when I went through this book in my church, and the prayer was this: Lord, so make it my resolution to become a person who brings your solution. You know, it was the same time where I felt this burden in me growing about this literacy gap in our school today. And I said, how can I bring your solution? And even if it meant to just help one child, you know, I would do it. And so me and some of my friends, we had a kind of a conversation, and another friend of mine, and Tiffany, and I went to a crisis shelter to volunteer. And this was through a connection to a friend who has been volunteering there. So basically 2 of us, we went in, and the only thing I had in my hands was Jolly Phonics booklets. And these are the things that my kids went through in school, in their preschool. So I had these books, and I said, okay, I'll use these books to the kids in the crisis shelter. And I taught like a 4-year-old. And Tiffany taught one of the migrant mom English. And so 2 of us, we went there weekly for about 4 months. And so that was kind of our learning phase. You know, how do we actually teach literacy? We have no teaching background. I'm not a teacher by training. I'm just a mom with 2 kids. I train in church, but not so much with kids. And so we just did what we could, okay, with the resource that was given to us. And so we did this for about 4 months. And along the way, we found out about Readable. And so that's when we met Samantha, Amanda, and as well Jonathan. And we reach out to them, say, how do you guys do it? You know, how did you guys start, and how do you guys do it? And basically what you have heard from Samantha, they shared everything with us. They invited us to Readable. They had a couple of training sessions and conversations with us. And basically they helped us kickstart Reading Roots. So with their experiences and what they have learned, 6 of us met in December 2018. And this is like kind of our visioning kind of an exercise that how do we want to see going forward in 5 years time, what do we want to see? And so me and my husband and 4 of our friends met together, and we had 2 days of a visioning exercise. And basically that's how Reading Roots started. And we came up with our vision, and vision is to empower every child through literacy. And our mission is to extend help to children so that they become effective readers. And we do it through by providing a systematic literacy curriculum and through partnership between volunteers and parents of children in the program. And I just want to also say that really it boils down to these 3 key success factors. And it's kind of similar to what Samantha has shared. We need a strong and sustainable volunteer pool because this is a long-term thing. Literacy is not built overnight. It requires years to build. And to do that, we also need to create a fun learning environment. We don't want kids to come in feeling bored. They need to have fun. And then we also need strong partnerships with parents because they are the key. And what we see them once a week, but they are with the kids at home most of the time. So to do this, the strategies that we have to adopt is we need to regularly engage and train volunteers, whether it's on the job or whether it's through training them on how to use the curriculum well. With that, it will lead to a sustainable volunteer pool. Like Readable, we also require at least 6 months commitment for regularity. And then with that would also improve the quality of teaching. So if teaching quality is improved, then the teachers or the volunteers know how to create a fun and positive learning environment, right? And with that, it also increased the progress in learning for the child. So part of what we do in our environment, we really want to make it fun. We want to make it friendly and truly to love the kid when they come in, so that they will be willing to learn and they'll be willing to come back. Okay, so that again increased the chances of progress in learning. And the other very key pillar is very strong partnership with parents. And we aim to build a relationship right from the start, by regularly engaging them, visiting them at home in the beginning, talking to them about the child's progress, giving them tips on what they can do at home, reduce screen time, engage the kids more. And then we also get buy-in from parents. So they need to know what do we do in our program. We invite our parents to sit in. They can join the kids if they want to, so that they can learn alongside the kids. So likewise for the community in Jalan Coco, some of our parents are migrant moms and they do not speak English, as a first language. Some of them do not speak at all. Yeah, so they are happy to sit in sometimes to understand what we do. And that will increase the commitment of the kids coming back to the program. So with that will increase the willingness to learn, and that increases the progress in learning. So these are all integrated and it's all linked. So we have to keep building these pillars in order for the literacy program to work. Yeah. So why do we choose Macpherson? I guess because it's kind of closest to all of us, among our friends. And we went and spoke to one of a person who works in Macpherson, CC, and he's our liaison officer. And basically he opened the doors and said, come in, and we wanted to find out what are the gaps, where are the people, like, is it primary school level, is it secondary school level, is it preschool level, how can we help? And we decided that we will focus on preschool because that's the age group that is not covered by other social groups or volunteer groups in this area. We don't want to duplicate efforts. And so we decided to start with the 4-year-olds. And right now we have 4 to 8-year-olds. We don't have that big group like Readable. We started in May last year. And so our kid size is about 11 to 12 kids. So with Macpherson, that's the gap that we're trying to meet. We used to have a 1-on-1 volunteer ratio, but with COVID, we had to reduce the numbers in the classroom. So a volunteer now engages maybe 2 or 3 kids. And also we constantly reach out to the parents to build that relationship. So we started in 18 May 2019, and this is our registration booth downstairs at the CC. And we were like coming in, will the kids come today? We're not sure, but we're just gonna be there and be ready for them. And so when we saw the first kid come in, I think all of us leaped for joy, you know. And so they started coming, and then this is our first pool of parents and kids coming to our program. And our volunteers as well. So we had a great fun start. So we use Jolly Phonates because it's an easy to use curriculum for preschoolers. But besides that, we also have My Readers, decodable readers, and also we started to use Fitzroy for some of our kids who is able to read right now. So these are some of the curriculum that we do, but of course we also use other storybooks. You know, we want to stretch their imagination, so we get the kids to pick the books that they want to read. So we do have a kind of a book library as well in the room. So we also believe in learning through play. So we think of activities to help to engage the young ones. These are some of our pictures, our volunteers who are really good at what they do. I think they're way better than me. Then this is one of the fun things that we do. And this is another kid in the next slide that when he started to sound and blend the words, I think all of us were so happy. Yeah, so that's Yuvan. He was only 4 when he came. So for our volunteers, we do have 2 big kind of training that we have run so far. And these are the 2 volunteer group, training that we have run. And besides this, we do kind of on Zoom training right now. So we brief our volunteers on Zoom, and then we do kind of briefing them on Zoom before we start the lesson. And yeah. So I want to share this story because it's such a testimony. And this is where we meet in this room that was kind of loaned to us, and it's for free. We don't pay for it, but it's part of the CC. But because it's a multi-purpose room, other groups are using it, and they would put their things in the room. And often every time we go there, we're like, okay, do we have space in the room today to run our lesson? We don't know. So I decided, I said, there's no way the kids could learn in such a messy environment. We have to change the room. We have to make the learning environment fun. And so we started to ask for, people to donate stuff and ask whether we could renovate the whole room. But the cost would be borne by us. I'll just say, God, if you ask me to do this, you will send the resource, right? And so this is just the old room and what all the things were there. This is what it looks like sometimes. We may not have this space sometimes. And so through friends who heard of our, what we're trying to do at Macpherson, and they started to donate. And in fact, we have one company, Daha Consultants. They basically is the one who renovated the room for us. And he said, I will sponsor the whole renovation. We do not have to pay a single cent. And we have people who will donate stuff to us, even like a big whiteboard for us to teach. So this is our new room. So it looks like that. If all the things were sponsored. So I just want to share this because I think when you set out to do something and you sometimes will wonder whether resources are adequate, you do not have to worry. I think people will be very blessed. I'm very pleased to bless your initiative, and if you just ask. And so I just want to also give thanks for this. And these are volunteers. We have maybe about a pool of 20 volunteers regularly. We try to have them alternate so that they don't get burnt out. But this is one of our early volunteers. Some of them are not volunteer at the moment, but they are still in our list. They are our ambassadors, they are our advocates, we still update them. So this is a party that was sponsored by a company to run a Christmas party for the children. And so we gather the parents and the volunteers together to have a fun time. So with that, I would like to invite Carmen to share.
All right. Hello, everybody. Yes. So hi, I'm Carmen. If you spotted me in the slides, I'm the one wearing spectacles with very messy hair. That's how beauty looks like on a Saturday morning, for people who struggle to wake up on the weekend. So, but anyway, I'm just going to share a bit about myself, why I volunteer, and more importantly, why are we doing something so simple? Why do we believe in something so simple, such as reading and teaching kids and teaching all these phonics and whatnot? So what you might find interesting about my experience is that I was a volunteer both with Readable, and then I connected to NG through John, one of the founders of Readable, and then here we are, 1 year plus-ish for Reading Root. So to share a bit about myself, I'm in the performing arts scene and I do producing work. So currently I'm at Yasmini, and yes, the Durian, like Bernice the Durian in Readable like. So back in 2017, I started thinking about starting something in my neighborhood. So just nice, I'm living in McPherson, and growing up here is known to be quite ghetto in the past, with the kind of flats in the area, reflecting the kind of socioeconomic class that people from here come from, very similar to whatever Sam shared about Jalan Coco. So personally, I myself am in that kind of situation, but I've been blessed with my grandmother who saved on everything, but always ensured that I had access to books. And so she would bring me to book fairs and reward me with a book every few weeks from Popular bookstore, or when times were harder, bring me to the library just to read books. But having said all that, so I do have access to books, but as a young kid, reading all these books with words, I don't think I was reading them. My grandma can't speak English, can't really read English either. So I'm not sure if it's surprising to you, but I couldn't utter English till I was in primary school. And even in primary 1, I was being picked out because my English was really terrible, because I'm just used to hearing and speaking Cantonese at home. So somehow with the help of my aunt, or just relying on other people, and because I was quite slow when I was younger, I think I'm thankful to God for sending people into my life when I was very young to guide me, to read to me, to somehow make me listen to things, so that, hey, now I know how to read. And I guess with that, it planted a seed way back, unbeknown to me until much later, that, hey, maybe reading is very important. Maybe all these things that I felt very like at a loss of, like, because in kindergarten, I would be like, I have no idea what my teachers are saying. Like, I still remember. So now that I've grown up, I'm working, and I can speak English, I know kind of how to teach and stuff like that. I wanted to do something. And like maybe some of you guys who are in church, who are Christians, you'll be like, oh, why not do something in church? Why not do something with ministry? But I've been there. I've done so much ministry work that I arrived at a point where I just felt like I want to do something with young children, and not in Sunday school or not through tuition programs. And I just felt this prompting and this desire to do something where I live. So McPherson, the question is, I don't have a pool of people to start. I don't know. I don't have like fellow, okay, not say lawyer friends. I don't have friends who are like, oh, let's start something together. And then So I didn't really have friends who wanted to start that. I didn't know how to start, even like what to do. So I just decided to like go on Google. And then I searched like reading groups in Singapore. Of course, all the groups from NLB came out. But at that point in time, I think Readable hasn't gotten much spotlight yet. But I came across this article about Readable, and then just clicked, hey, why do I join them? And why do I learn from this group? And at that time, actually, to be very honest, I misread the article, and I thought they were going to start something in McPherson. And I asked if I could be part of it. Then they replied, sorry, no, we're not starting anything. But hey, if you want to join us, like, you can come and learn. Yeah, but if you want to start something, we're more than happy to help you. I'm like, no, I can't start something yet. Yeah. So I went ahead, and then I volunteered at Readable for about 1.5 years. So I think at this point, it sounds very, it just sounds like, oh, hey, I went to Readable and then it all happened. So volunteering looks like something very simple, in case any of you are asking, because one of the clear and I realized, how often do we meet? It's really just 2 hours at a time a week, or maybe 3 hours. You want to include time traveling. You go there, you set up space, you pick up books for your kids, just prepare the materials for your kids. You get a quick briefing by the lead volunteers or the core team members, and then you go into the session itself. And for preschool, for us, we have circle time, and then we just have lots of fun together. And this point of time also, you have the good intentions, you have the time, resources to do everything. But the thing is, why do you continue doing this? Why do you think that reading is going to make any difference? Why do you think just playing with them is going to do anything? So I don't know if this will encourage you, but you never really know what you're going to read out of the time and the heart and the soul that you point the kids until you start to see the changes. And I just want to caveat, both Readable and Reading Roots are not striving for like brainy kids who can suddenly become geniuses that like write long essays and to like impress people, or like suddenly you can win spelling bee competitions. We're definitely not. But there's this whole genuine desire just to plug the gap, to equip the kids with basic literacy skills, as simple as how to write and spell their name. I think you'll be surprised when you step into a room and then you ask the kids, oh, what's your name? And then they'll be, for example, Carmen. Okay, can you write Carmen for me? And then they'll be like, I can't. Yeah, or they'll start scrolling something that doesn't even look anything remotely close to their names. And or some of the kids will be able to sing an alphabet song and you'll be like, okay, how about the first 3 letters of the alphabet? Are you able to like write them for me or like recognize by pointing out to me? And you'll be surprised, a lot of them can't. And you'll be like, these things that are so intuitive to me, so basic, why don't these kids know that? So I guess it goes back to earlier points about what Sam and Angie shared about the backgrounds of these kids. Most of the kids like me, very much like me when I was younger, don't have family members whose first language is English. So they might be in class super proficient and super talkative, but in another language because like they have a migrant mom or maybe just because that's their environment. So they come in like spewing Tamil, spewing Chinese, Mandarin and all that. But when it comes to English, it's just not equipped to do it. So I think the reason then why Reading Roots and like Readable exists then is for this reason. And I will tell you, so why I mentioned like you never know what you read, is there'll be kids. I remember one kid I was looking at Readable where he would come into class making noises. Okay, noises like really just mumbling because he really couldn't say anything. So he just making noise as a form of communication. And it's just so hard to talk to him because like half the time he'll be like talking to you, but you're like, you're 4, you're still mumbling. I don't understand what you're saying, but you just continue. And then one day, suddenly it hits, and the kid will pick up on learning the phonics. Right? The kid will respond and start recognize the sound that you're teaching, the letter sound you're teaching him. And from then on, it's how you realize, oh my God, the kid can speak and he can finally express himself. And you see them improving, gaining confidence and the joy. I think that's the most rewarding thing about this whole idea of volunteering. So now that 1.5 years since volunteering Readable, I was very thankful that John kind of reached out to me. We had very divine conversations about my background, and then it all makes sense when I got introduced to Angie because both of us wanted to do something in McCussen. I won't go into details since Angie so wonderfully covered the background of it. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask more in Q&A, but there's 2 more things I want to share about as a fellow volunteer, maybe, or a soon-to-be volunteer, what you want to do. I think the things that prevent you from taking a first step would be like the paralysis of wanting to do something. You'll be thinking where to go, what to do, who to go to, or sometimes the whole idea of waiting will just start. So I encourage you to just search or reach out with a question to various groups, like whether it's Readable, Reading Roots, or the groups that Sam mentioned under Readable. All these groups have social media pages, so just ask away and say, like, hey, I have some time, or can I come and observe? I want to start something, but I'm not sure what to do. So could I come and see? Could I have a coffee chat with you? You know, like these people would be more than happy to share all these things with you. And for those volunteers who'll be like, oh Lord, oh no, I've not spoken to kids in forever. I don't have kids myself. I think kids are annoying, but I want to like talk to them. Could I talk to teens and say, all these questions like what Angie said, like even though I'm not trained as a teacher, how do I teach? I'm not equipped. How can I do it? I think fear not. I think God will still equip you, and more importantly, point you to different people that would help you and fellow comrades that will be there to share with you. So yeah, I think that's something. Another thing about commitment. I know that both Readable and Reading Roots have said like 6 months commitment. And some of you are like, I don't have 6 months to give. I think, like they said, relationships are important, and that it might get tiring at times. But 6 months in the grand scheme of things is not very long. And at the same time, we do know that life priorities change. Sometimes like you do need to take a break. So for example, we have volunteers who are teaching our primary school kids at one point that are expecting now. So of course, we wouldn't say, hey, please continue teaching even if your baby arrives. We wouldn't say that. So I think volunteers will be very understanding about each other's situation. So even like right now, like what Angie said, Angie and I take turns leading each week, ensuring that we get adequate support and rest in the meantime. And so with a final note, I think just remember that while doing all this, when it does get tiring, or even when you're like teaching the kids and you don't see any changes, any improvement, just remember to have patience And I know that like love and strength comes not from ourselves, but from God. So with that, go forth and see where your journey brings you. Okay, back to you, Angie.
Thank you, Carmen. I just want to say that Carmen, if not for her commitment and devotion to this cause, I think I feel that I wouldn't be able to run this race. You know, it's great to run with people who believe in it. And I also want to say that it's so it's amazing that God connected us through Readable. And I just want to share this, that if we create a network of support and we create a network of like-minded people, I think you can see that the power is beyond yourself, you know, and that I'm just glad that Readable is willing to release one of their best volunteers to Reading Roots. And I think without Carmen today, I think we will have a gap for sure. And so she's like a right-hand woman when we lead the groups under us. So thank you for believing in this cause. So I just want to share the last slide, last part, how you can contribute or what you can do is that you can spread the word about Readable, Reading Roots, or some of these initiatives that you do know, be our advocates, tell people of the need. You can also be a regular volunteer with any of the groups, find out what we do. I mean, you hear it from our speech tonight. You can pray for those who are believers. Do pray for us. I think it is a lot of hard work. It's really sometimes not easy seeing the kids and hoping that, you know, that you want to see change quickly, but sometimes you don't, but you have to keep plowing. You have to keep sowing. Or if you feel that there's something in your heart to do something like starting a program in your neighborhood, we're happy to share our experiences, happy to help you in any way we can, and so that you can have a good start. Yeah, so this is what you can do. And finally, this is our vision again: empower every child through literacy. And that I have one picture that I want to share, and this picture. I really like this picture because I see so many people involved in the kids. So we have the kids sitting on the floor. This is our Reading Roots kids. We have their parents being with us. This is our Children's Day celebration last year. We have the volunteers in green, so they are color coded so we can see them. And we have youth from a church, which is my church, coming in to run the children program, so that, you know, you kind of take the hands off the volunteers, so the volunteers can mingle more with the parents. And we also have the backing of Miss Tin because we are in her ward, North MacPherson CC. So I think there's really the power of us, and it really takes a village to raise a child, and that if we work together, I think we could really see the endless possibilities. So I just want to share that picture as the last slide. And so thank you so much for allowing me to share tonight.
Thank you, Angeline. Your last slide was not shown. Do you want to quickly put your last slide up again so we can just see what you were sharing with us about?
Sorry, I didn't know that it wasn't shown.
Yes.
This is the last slide.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is our Children's Day party last year, and then just the volunteers involved, the parents, the children, the youth from a church, and just coming together to serve the kids. I think I really see that there is power of us, you know, that really the power of everybody getting involved in serving this community. It's really wonderful.
Are all these people local in the MacPherson, from the MacPherson area, Angeline?
Yeah. Volunteers, no. Volunteers are from different parts in Singapore, but the children are from MacPherson area and their parents. Yeah.
Actually, now we move into the Q&A session. I thank everyone. There's a number of questions have come through, and our speakers have been very diligent. They've been also answering by text your question, but just wondering whether perhaps we might want to hear a bit more from the speaker on a couple of those questions. The last one that came in was someone asking, I don't speak English well, like us. Can I still volunteer? Are there other aspects that we can volunteer other than reading? On that question, just wondering, Angeline and Samantha, whether you have issue or difficulties with attracting or finding volunteers. How do you go about it? And indeed, like this person asked, are there things that they can do other than simply teaching? Are there other support kind of work that they can do to help you in your programs?
I'll share first. I mean, I feel that there are so many ways that a volunteer can contribute, not just from teaching the kids or being faced with the kids, but like engaging parents. So we have parents who are non-English speaking, and we do need someone who can speak pretty well in Chinese or in Tamil, and this dialect, you know, and so that they can engage the parents better, help us to explain to them what we do. So every week, our parents engagement volunteers, I have 5 volunteers who call the parents every week to remind them to bring the kids back on Saturdays. And they also give them updates as well on group chats and on the phone. So these are other ways that you can contribute, and even making resources. So things like we want to make activities. We do require some craft materials. And sometimes I don't have the time to do it. And if you can help in the area, someone who can help in the area, that would be great, you know? So things like that, yeah.
Samantha, anything from your side?
Not really. I don't have much more to add. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, we really see the heart of every volunteer. But I also do want to say that, you know, I think when it comes to volunteering, a lot of the misconception is we are here to like save the day. I mean, I feel like, you know, at Readable, we tell our volunteers and the people who wish to volunteer that we don't want to come in with a savior mentality. I think it's important to note that we are just here to unlock the potential of each child that already exists. And I think, you know, wanting to volunteer with the right motivation and the right intention is very important, because at the end of the day, you know, if you get burnt out, I mean, it's very easy to get burnt out volunteering week after week if you don't see results, and you know, these and you may not see results due to a whole host of circumstances that is not your fault, right? And so I think this is very important to note when deciding to volunteer or not.
So, and both of you have mentioned that you have had or have pretty good relationships with local community organizations. So I'm just wondering whether you have any special tips in terms of approaching the local committees. I know someone did ask about whether they need to approach committees and or schools. So your experience with working with the CCs, did you find it satisfying one, or are there any special kind of tips in terms of how to approach them, or are they very simply open in welcoming you to support their efforts in the community? Is that what you found?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes the thing is that like there's a lot of duplication already in our society. I think it's important to find like, you know, when you're thinking of starting something, it's important to figure out what already exists in the neighborhood that you want to start in. So you know, I would look at, you know, if I were to start something in an area today, I'll look at what already exists in that area, and if there are existing literacy groups, you know, you may want to approach them to find out what they are doing. So sometimes I feel, you know, it might be better to improve a current program that already exists rather than to start something from scratch and then you just cannibalize each other. And I think like these things are important to also take note, because at the end of the day, we're not doing this. I mean, we're doing this for the community, right? We're not doing this ourselves. And I think that it's important to consider the greater good. Yeah.
Indeed. Angeline, anything from you?
Yeah, I think honestly, when we first started, we really do not know where to engage and how to start. I mean, We approached the CC because we feel that maybe they do have grassroots volunteers who can give us some understanding of the area. We also approach people who are already doing literacy programs, like tuition programs, primarily tuition programs in the area. So we just want to find out what do they do and how we can value add in other areas so that we don't, like what Samantha said, do not cannibalize what they do. So with all that, I think the way to get in for us, I am not sure about other groups, but the way to get in for us was we got connected to a preschool, one of the, I think it's the PCF Sparkle Tots. And I met with the principal, and the principal basically was our ambassador and advocate, and she gave us a list of children and parents whom she feel would be interested. And of course, that they are from under-resourced families. And so she gave us that list, and then she said to connect with them, and she already kind of paved the way for us. So that's where our kids first came from, the school, and then from then on, we built from there. And through word of mouth, they would invite their family, other friends or neighbors to come and check us out. Yeah.
I'll just jump onto what Angie said because of observing how she started the entire thing. I think speak to community leaders, people who actually know the community already, and then they would be the ones sometimes who know what are the shortcomings or what are the gaps within the area, and they will point you to it, like what the CC guy pointed us to the preschool. And I think that I think Angie and the team did really well was to really walk the neighborhood, to really understand the neighborhood, to be around in the neighborhood, and sometimes you just want to be part of it and then do something there, but actually we don't even understand what do they really need. We're not there. So I think that's something important to understand what you're doing, where you're doing, who you're even serving. Yeah, so to be part of the neighborhood even.
So I guess it takes a little bit of time to get to know the community and to do a little bit of research first. After all, you are wanting to impact that community in a very positive way. So you actually honor them by finding out a little bit more information about who's already there and what they're already doing. Yes. We have one question that's come in, which so far, hang on, it's just been answered. Let me just bring that question up. So it's an interesting one. Children in Singapore tend to compare themselves with one another. This is unhealthy. How do you get the children to value themselves and to appreciate another's strengths at the same time? Is that something that's cropped up with your experience? And did you do that perhaps through what Samantha was sharing about a certain kind of program to tackle that kind of issue? Any experience in that area?
Yeah, I actually answered the question. I think it's an interesting one. I think often as adults, we don't realize how we compare kids. And naturally, you know, and of course the kids wouldn't have the self-awareness to realize how damaging this is. But even as adults, we don't also realize how damaging this is for the kids. And of course, kids pick up from adults and they look to adults, you know, they model the behaviors of adults. So if adults are comparing kids, then naturally the kids will compare themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Angeline, anything from you?
Well, because our kids are still very young, I mean, the age group. So at that point, we don't really face that. I think more with older kids. But as a parent, as a mom, we are very careful with what we say. We will not tell my kids that who tell me the scores of your friends' results. You know, we don't ask our kids to tell us that. You know, did so and so get 90 and above? You know, I made it a point never to ask that kind of question to my child. Yeah, so that I do not even put the seed of comparison in her. Yeah.
Actually, to address the question, the second part of the question regarding books, children's books, what we can do for you, we can actually look at compiling a list of titles, and I'll arrange to get them sent to our administrator, and in the response to or our follow-up to tonight's program, we'll send you some titles which you can check out as far as this particular issue is concerned. So, on that, if there's anyone else has any other questions or any other topics which they'd like some books or recommendations on, we're also very happy to do that as well. So please get your questions in that regard, and also afterwards in the follow-up when you receive the our follow-up to this particular evening. If you have any further questions, we'll also include our contacts so that you can get back in touch with us. Okay, and there's one more open question just popped in. That's will be our last one for the evening, I believe. How do you manage children's behavioral problems? Carmen, you're clapping your hands. Do you have anything in particular you want to share with us?
I clap my hands because both in Readable and I think even for reading groups, I tend to be quite firm. I tend to be the one that, if it's a naughty kid, I'll end up being the one that handles them. I honestly think it really matters. It really depends on each kid to each kid. And they all come with their own quirks. Some of them might just need some time of warming up because there's a separation anxiety at the door with the parents. Some of them are just bored, or some of them simply have a bad day at home. So one thing that one of the Readable volunteers very early on shared with me, and this stayed with me, we never know where the kids are coming from. We never know whether the kids came from a good atmosphere at home and they're coming to class like, yeah, I'm having a fun section. Most of the time, they probably came from maybe the parents argue at home. Maybe someone in the family was having an temper, and that affects them in class. Yeah. So I think take some time to even talk to them. I think in Singapore, at least in a very Asian, I'm not sure, I speak for myself, culture, we're very used to being punitive, very punished. Okay, if you're not going to listen, we're going to put you aside. So I think for reading groups, at least we enforce quiet time. So we'll speak to a kid, we'll give you some warning. We have a traffic light in the classroom that goes, oh, it's not in the photo, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that goes from like red, yellow, green. No, green, yellow, red. So you start off in class, you're ready for class. But if you're naughty or like you don't listen, and then you put them into yellow, amber. So it kind of gives the kids some signal that, hey, you're not behaving. Do you want to think about it? Yeah. And then when they continually don't do anything, then you're like, okay, I'm going to give you one more chance. You're going to move down to the red light. Forgive me, I can't remember what each of the lights. We have some words on it, so I can't remember it. Yeah. So with that, if they still don't listen, we'll put them in a quiet time, a corner, and put them in a chair for a minute, kind of like a timeout. But it's not without reason. It's kind of, you have to explain to them why we put you there. We're going to talk to you and reflect and debrief with you after a minute as well. So far, I don't think we've used that actually. I think it only went down to amber at most. Maybe for one or two kids, then we use it all the way to red. But so far, I think it really depends on kids to kids, and there's different tricks to handle them. With that, each group actually have trainings to teach you how to handle the kids. So yeah, but I don't, if Angie and Sam has more to add, yeah.
Thank you, Carmen.
Yeah, I think the language of the teacher is very important. And I think as much as we want to be firm, like how we say it and what we say is also very important. So it's not good enough to say you did something wrong. You have to be very direct and explicit, and like, okay, it was not nice when you push your friend off the chair, or it was not nice when you make, when you were, speaking really loudly and you prevented your friends from paying attention. So with kids, you have to be very direct, and so that they understand the exact behavior that they did wrong, rather than, stop being so noisy, or like stop being so disruptive. Like, what does the word disruptive mean? And what does non-disruptive look like? So I think with kids, you also have to frame it in a positive way. So say things like, I know that you are capable of sitting still and looking at me and, being quiet when and paying attention, right? So you have to make the behavior very explicit. And I think that's when we find that it's not that they don't want to listen. Sometimes they just don't know how, because they are just told like, stop talking. And then you're like, okay. So yeah, I think it's very important. Language is very important, and teaching them what and modeling what appropriate speech or behavior is also very important. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Samantha. Angeline, anything else to add on those?
No, I think they have covered it well.
Okay. Just one question did pop in. I think this one is primarily for Samantha regarding emotional resilience in children. Do the training materials cover how to spot, how to cope, how to increase self-esteem?
I mean, yeah, we vary different trainings from time to time depending on what we see, you know, is a need, and yeah, I guess this is one thing we do talk about. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Samantha. Okay, I think we'll close the Q&A. Oh, hang on, wow. We'll close the Q&A session right now. Any more questions we'll take on board and we'll try to answer in our response or our follow-up to this evening's program, or before the end of the program, if my speakers here have anything to answer for those questions that are coming in now, you may proceed to do so. Now, when you received the email, when you received your email a few days ago regarding this evening's program, there was a let me see. Yep, there was a PDF which contained links to a number of titles available in media ministry. Now, these particular titles under the special promotion, Empowering the Young, are available right now until October the 3rd, I think it is, October the 12th. October the 12th, that's right, October the 12th. These specials are available. We've about 60 to 70 titles, which are currently on special now to support this particular webinar. So plenty of titles there for you to pick up. And as I mentioned before, if there are any particular areas of interest or need that you have, under Media Ministry's ministry elements as far as reading advocacy concerned, we do provide reading lists. So if you are in need of a particular topic or a particular issue to tackle, we'd be more than happy to provide you with reading lists and reading suggestions. So with this evening's program and moving ahead as well. Okay, my final announcement this evening concerns upcoming talks presented by CREW. We have 2 coming up. We actually have, okay, we have the Collab to Reach number 6, Reimagining Youth Ministry by Dr. Reverend James Chung. That's happening and Pastor Joel Tan and Ang Heung Shun. That's happening on the 3rd of October from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So for all our youth ministry people, please drop into that. This is number 6 of a series. So please join us on the 3rd of October. On the 13th of October, we have our next Tuesday Talk, Heart of Worship by Streams of Praise. This one will be in Mandarin. It's hosted by Streams of Praise Church, Heart of Worship, and that's on the 13th of October. So on that, I just want to end with one beautiful quote from one of the books which is available through our special, Reading for the Common Good by C. Christopher Smith. Let me just finish on this wonderful quote. Developing literate and educated citizens that are prepared to engage in the work of helping their places flourish is a reasonable end toward which our community advocates should be moving in our engagement with our neighbors. So if you have a plans, I've heard this evening of what Readable and Reading Roots are doing in their particular areas. If you have any inspiration this evening to go ahead and go and do similar, you please get in touch with us. We'd be delighted to support you and get you in touch with Readable and Reading Roots, and they'll be, I'm sure, more than happy to support you in any effort of providing literacy support in your neighborhood. So on that note, I want to thank everybody once again. Thank you to Angeline, to Carmen, and to Samantha for your wonderful presentations, and my support from CREW, Maggie in CREW. Thank you so much for providing me with the links and also presentations and getting everything organized tonight. So on that, I wish everybody a very good evening. Thank you once again for joining us, and look out for further presentations in the area of reading literacy and reading in general that we will be providing through Media Ministry in times to come. So thank you so much indeed. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.